Hey guys, Shield here. This video is a 60-minute SM Cath video where I show more of the AoE style highlights I've put together over the past few weeks. In this style of video, it's more relaxing, slower, with no particular object in mind of what we're discussing. Right now where I am with Shield, I do have some good news in terms of future updates for the channel. On my third account, as I'm not a multi-boxer, I've mentioned in the past that I've never used single input software. I use straight alt tabbing in the past. Recently I committed to leveling a mage, no mage Parmenion, from 1 to 60 in the power leveling style, so that I can try box with Shield, Denarius, and Parmenion and have a total coverage of the 3 main roles needed to do things like Emperor runs completely solo, or to do things like Strathhome completely solo, or basically just test the real limits of the classes combined in all manner of different dungeons. It's been an enjoyable process because it's also been a sort of an experience revisiting things like Shadowfang Keep and seeing that how once upon a time when I first dinged 60, I could barely pull to Odo the Blind Walker, and I would have to bubble and heal and all this stuff, and now it's with all the lifesteal and the tier 2 and Skull Flame and Demon Forged Breastplate, Spell Power. Shield is just so relatively stacked to where he is in the past, or he was in the past, excuse me. It was definitely eye-opening because it made me think about just how much further Shield can go, not just with the tri-boxing approach, but also as we hopefully see the Burning Crusade one day. Regarding the tri-boxing, another reason I was very interested in having 3 characters like this is because in my current setup at home, I have 3 monitors. I have an Asus 24-inch in the middle, and on the 2 sides, excuse me, I think they're all 21-inch, excuse me. And then on the 2 sides with a hammer, an arm hammer, I'm splitting the 2 PCs wider. We have 2 LG monitors. So that allows me to have a nice setup where I have, Denarius on the left, Brock in the middle, and then Parmenion on the right. And it has been a little bit of muscle memory to get away from those habits and the alt-tabbing habit, I should say. That is the habit that has been most difficult to get rid of, because I keep thinking I should alt-tab and the other screen will pop up and I'll switch over to the new keybinds, whatever it is. So like Shift-S is Holy Light for Shield, and Shift-S is Healing Touch for Denarius. Maybe a better example would be something like Moonfire Shift-F for Denarius, whereas with Shield it's Flash of Light. So that's been fun because it will be a little bit of practice to get used to it, but I'm imagining a setup where I can round up all of Blackrock Depths, that entire front entrance, round it all up in one pull, and really just wipe it all up with Consecrate, Hurricane, and Blizzard. And that just seems like a lot of fun, you know. In that classic Hobbs way of pulling. Really, there's so many things I want to explore, if I'm fortunate to level Parmenion to 60. As of the time of this recording, he's level 27, and I didn't play yesterday, so I'll see if I can find time today to enjoy some more SM Cath runs. It really does make me think about just how far Brockshield has come, where once it was, let me start in Stockades, let me start in SFK, and until, you know, I got the good graces of being helped by Elegance to get my full tier 2, to get myself Euros Hand over Ragnaros, to have the funds to buy whatever I needed in GDKP for Denarius. Now it was really so simple because I leveled Parmenion from 1 through 10 in starting spot for the gnomes and dwarves. And from there, once you reach level 10 in Dunmorrow, you can be power leveled immediately in either SFK or Dead Mines, but not Stockades. So Stockades is a level 15 entrance to start, and my understanding is Dead Mines is level 10, whereas I'm certain for a fact SFK is level 15. Excuse me, at level 10, because I have actually walked in at level 10 with this is now the 11th tune I've leveled from 10 to 15 in Stockades. Excuse me, Shadowfang keep mixing them up. The good news is it took the same 3 hours it took for the other tunes, and before I knew it, Parmenion was level 15. From levels 15 through 18, I ran Stockades. However, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your perspective, I ran into that blockade of having ran too many instances at the daily cap. So it was at that point I decided that it wasn't working for me, just waiting for the stocks instance reset. And so I have purchased Joanna's Guide way back when I started leveling in Classic World of Warcraft. So that was really an excellent way of Joanna's Guide. The way it works is he has a browser and he just maps out the route, as he is, in my opinion, the best questing leveler of all time. And so I followed his guide for my 60 warrior, my 60 paladin, and I decided to go level in Red Ridge Mountains, following the same quest path that I'd already done with Brockshield, this time picking up for Parmenion at level 18. It was really a nice change of pace to level a mage, because it showed me just how different I am as a human being in terms of my selection to choose a paladin. When I first decided to play World of Warcraft once Classic was released, I applied to a few different guilds for entry, and I mentioned I have that 60 warrior as a horde tune, and playing horde was fine. I had played horde in the past, but I always identified more with the Alliance, and in particular, I mentioned in one of my previous videos, my first ever character that I leveled seriously was a human priest, up to around level 45 in Daenerys. Of course, the first time I ever played World of Warcraft, I think like so many of us, we picked the Night Elves because they just looked so cool. I think a lot of us can relate. I just picked the Night Elves because they look amazing. And why not, you know? Anyways, after playing the Warrior to 60 and raiding for a while, I realized that it just wasn't for me because I didn't identify with the class. And that's when I looked inwards and realized that I always was a paladin at heart. Not in the sense that I'm a holy warrior or something, but when I looked at myself, I knew that I liked to play a class that could wear plate. First and foremost, I liked wearing the heaviest armor because I wanted my class to be durable. So that's why for me, paladin and warrior were always some of the top choices in my mind. Having tried a cloth class of Warlock in Wrath of the Lich King, I didn't enjoy playing a ranged DPS character because most of the time it means you're running from the fight. And you can see here as Brockshield, I love to stand and fight with the entire horde of Scarlet mobs. And that's a complete dichotomy, I mentioned all of that, to how Parmenion has to level. Since I leveled Daenerys literally AoE all the way up from 10 through 60 on Brock's shoulders, I really still don't know how to play Druid beyond the standard healing. And honestly, I don't even have the rotation set for bear or cat form whatsoever. And I don't plan to, because his purpose in this try box is to take care of Parmenion and I with his healing. Sure, he has that versatility of he can go to dire bear form if something runs up on Parmenion and my cooldowns are up with Brockshield, or down, excuse me. And he could also use stealth if we need to sneak by different objectives, such as potentially, the Lyceum was one thought for that, but I realized it was actually just easier to wipe it all with Brockshield. This fight is cool here, returning back to the action, because I almost die. As you can see here, the health bar is nearly spent several times over, and I don't really have much hope even of finishing this fight, but I didn't want to give up. So I figured I would try and scratch and claw as much as I could, and kite the mobs around, and hope that, some grace it might work out, and maybe not grace per se, but sheer dumb luck. In that Professor McGonagall voice, sheer dumb luck. In that scene when Harry and Ron save Hermione from the troll. Hermione, excuse me. But yeah, as you can see, it looks like I'm hanging on, but there's really not even a sliver of room for error here, so... And that holy shock from Whitemane hurts for sure. But I finally get my Blessing Protection back, top my health off with the healing, and at this point I just know it's a straight mana fight and I win. So, glad we were able to survive that one. Returning back to the story with Parmenion. When I was leveling him in Red Ridge Mountains, it really jarred me into appreciating what a stark contrast the Paladin and Mage classes really are. In PvP, a Mage is a complete mismatch for a Paladin. I mean, we can never close the gap, really. Every spell they throw will slow us. We can dispel, but we're spending our mana bar. We can heal, but they'll counterspell. We can close the gap, they'll Frost Nova and Blink. And then they can evocate if we actually bleed their mana. and we have Blessing Protection, which protects against melee damage. So it's not like we're facing a warrior or a rogue where we're arguably at an advantage, but we're facing some of the toughest classes like Warlock, Mage, Shadow Priest. I mean, nigh impossible matchups. And in the leveling process, I realized that so much of that hit and run tactic, for lack of a better word, is really there in these, especially the Mage class in particular. And I really think that mages are so cool, because if you look at some of the videos of top mages, in particular I like watching Arlius, so I'm sub to him. It's definitely worth checking him out if you enjoy watching the mage style of AoE power pulling. He has some paladin vids too, like in Zul'Farrak he does the same tactic, jumping on that top ledge, that he does as a mage. Don't quote me on it, I think I saw one of his thumbnails show that with the paladin class. But the reason I don't do the crocodile runs is because I don't like that dancing style of running back and forth and like glitching the mobs out. It's fine, I'm not saying it's bad, but I really didn't like playing Parmenion single DPS. It was fun because his damage was just so much stronger than Brockshield's, but it's like once the mobs closed on me and I was in trouble, I'd have to polymorph them or frost nova them, then run. And I just don't like running, you know, like even in these situations, it's like if you're a mage, you frost nova, you bandage, or you evocate, and just run and get your resources back. And you saw in that last vid, it's like I just identify with those heavy plate wearing classes, and I always liked the paladin ever since I watched WoW Hobbs, because after seeing his first Scarlet Monastery video when he was level 63, I knew that that's exactly what I wanted to do. And I think on that note, it means so much more to me than I can express in words when I hear people talk about, oh, I want to play a paladin because I see what you can do, because it means a lot. Honest to goodness, it means a lot, because getting to this point is not easy. Because I hear people talk about like, oh, I have the same gear as you and stuff, but I can't do this one pull that you're seeing here. And if you look at what you're seeing above, I mean, it could be for a reason. I didn't always use the triple elixirs. I pretty much use that now that I'm solo pulling the inside of the cathedral. But I always had thorns pretty much. I always had the druid buff. I always had a lot of advantages because I had 2 accounts and now 3 accounts. Like such, I'll have arcane intellect. I'll have dampen. The one. It's one blanking on it, to improve your magic abilities. So it's really staggering, because I can understand why it's not so simple for every paladin to just be able to one pull SM Cath, or like I do here, sell the runs in 2 pulls. And you can understand that each of these runs that I'm showing you is unique. It's not just the same run again and again, which means that I am making a lot of gold because I'm selling the runs at 10 gold per head per run, where I get all the loot, or people are kind enough to help me with my YouTube channel. Speaking of which, I'm very grateful that the channel has come as far as it has. I remember when I first started the channel, I felt like I didn't really know if it would be possible to even grow the channel this far. And the way I view it, I'm very fortunate that this channel is a hobby for me. Like Brockshield is a hobby, World of Warcraft is a hobby. I'm not expecting anything from this. I look at it like I always wanted to live vicariously through something exactly like Brockshield when I was young playing this game. And to have gotten to this point where I'm closing in on almost 200 subscribers with a lot of views and watch time relative to many channels that weren't like put on by another content creator, for example, and power to them. I'm not saying that satirically, power to them, because we all need relationships and connections in this world, right? And if you look at jobs, for example, most of the jobs people get are through connections. So I am not begrudging other streamers for their connections and ability to grow. That's exceptional. I haven't wanted to reach out to anyone else yet because I myself, I don't want to compare myself to Michael Jordan, and I'm not, so there's no but. I'm using what he said when he came into the league as an example of how I try and view myself in life in general. And he said that when he came into this league that he viewed himself as at the bottom of the totem pole, and he had to, the last man there, he had to prove himself to everybody. And if you watched Michael Jordan when you were young, I was only fortunate to watch his, I believe, 98 season at the minimum first person. I have memories of him at Disneyland playing the Spurs in 98 firsthand. And he averaged, I think, 27 points a game his rookie season. He was getting 37 by his third season in the league. And he still kept that mentality of being the bottom of the totem pole, even when he knew and everyone knew it wasn't true. And so it's not like I want to have some proverbial chip on my shoulder like, oh, Brock Shield, you're not good. Obviously I'm good. I'm not saying I'm not good, but I really always like looking up to other people so I can try and emulate them and see that there's so much further to go, right? Like there are a lot of other paladins that are so good on YouTube, and World of Warcraft creators that are so good, and people that are so much better at their job than me, and people that are so much better than exercising than me, or people that are so much better at singing than me, or whatever it is, right? And so I like to look up to people and try and emulate that level of success, because that really motivates me and keeps me going. So that's why I'm not comparing myself to Michael like I'm at the bottom of the totem pole. I'm not going to say I am. I mean, I'm clearly doing very well in this game, if that's what we're talking about. It's just a game, right? So I didn't want to say I'm doing well, I'm just enjoying it. Instead, I'd rather look at it like I don't see why I can't also try and achieve that same level of success as someone like Wow Hobbs. And it's no problem to me if I fall short, because I'm not doing it for the clicks, I'm not doing it for the views, I'm doing it for the true love of the game. And I'm so grateful when people support the channel, because I hope they see that more than what I can do in the game, it's my story that I'm expressing through World of Warcraft that I will look back on later in life and just enjoy, because I feel I have my priorities right in that it is just a game for me. I'm not expecting anything from it, like I've said before. So the opportunity to make content that I love from a game that I love, that's just a hobby to me, and have other people actually love and watch it, and that's something that you really can never take for granted, because oftentimes it's just strangers, right, watching your videos, liking your videos, subscribing to your channel, and helping you build a community that hopefully for everyone watching, you can enjoy my story for what it is, which is that scrubby paladin from Elwyn Forest rising all the way up to that true one pull of SM Cath, then bringing up that druid to 60, bringing up Parmenion hopefully to 60, and seeing what we can do in terms of, mult try boxing as much as we can in the World of Warcraft. Speaking of the inspiration for playing the Paladin class, I touched on it earlier with when I first played the game. I really fell in love with the Paladin class when I saw WoW Hobbs in 2007, and I remember then I used to play on not a great laptop or anything, and I actually played primarily on a much older Windows PC. I'm envisioning one of those white PCs from, I think, the 1990s, I want to say. I don't know if it was that old, but Well, it was not a great PC at all, and it was in my parents' house, and actually the PC was in their own bedroom, so because it was the same PC that my sister would need for work or something until she eventually got her own laptop for high school. So she just headed off to college when I first started playing WoW, and it was really a fun time in my life because, you know, as a kid you don't want to grow up too fast, and where I really wasn't one of the cool kids at all in high school. So World of Warcraft for me was a place to escape, and I can't say I was uncool or something, but I wasn't cool. And so I looked at it like I felt accepted playing WoW. I felt like the people that played this game didn't judge me for whether or not I was athletic, or whether or not I came from a rich family, or whether or not I look like them, or, you know, anything. So it definitely meant a lot to me because I still remember, you know, raiding firsthand in Karazhan, in Zulaman, seeing Serpent Shrine Cavern, seeing Tempest Keep. I never got to see Black Temple or Mount Hyjal or Sunwell firsthand, but I remember playing with one of my friends from high school on my Paladin, doing the dailies on the Blood Elf Sunwell Isle when that the patch came out for the Sunwell. And back then it was just the pure love and joy of the game. And that's the number one thing I'm hoping to retain about my experience with World of Warcraft now, is I would like to keep it as a game. Because for so many of us, like, once we start doing something that we view as work, we can often lose our joy for it. And that becomes very difficult because you can tell that with a lot of different professions. Like, just take entertainers for example, right? Like, when they start singing or rapping or dancing or making acting, whatever it is, they're doing it because they truly love it, and they're not expecting that they'll blow up and become, you know, Marshall Mathers or Christian Bale or I don't know, like Jay-Z. You're not expecting to just always make it to the, you know, the number one spot, basically, like Ludacris. So that's what I want to retain, because you can tell with a lot of, especially like Eminem songs, that he was rapping for so long, didn't know if he would ever make it. And once he did, he realized that even, you know, reaching the top in and of itself is overrated. Obviously, other than the money and what it gave his family, but the fame and the problems that come with, oh, you're the best, do this, do that. And it became work for him, right? It becomes work for everybody. So I don't want to look at this channel as work. Like, the reason I didn't play yesterday, I just told myself, like, take a day off. Like, don't play, because if you do something all the time and I look at it like work, you know, that's what happened to me in that 3-month period on this channel where I stopped making videos, right? I looked at it as work instead of just a hobby that I can later look back on and enjoy some of the perspective of where I was, not just in the game, but in life as a man at this point in time. I say all of that not to give the illusion that I wouldn't want this channel to keep growing. Obviously I do. I'm very grateful to everyone who subscribes to the channel, likes videos, comments, helps me not only build a sense of community, but helps me to make this channel more than what it is without you. Because really, entertainment in general, I think, is a test of, can you inspire other people to care about what your vision is? And I think that people can see I have a very clear vision for what I want, which is to enjoy the game first and foremost, and to see just how far we can push this in an AoE style of power pulling. Speaking of how far we can push things, hopefully once Burning Crusade comes out, the place that I would like to get to there is, I want to be able to try box Hellfire Citadel, and that would be really cool to me, because for those of us that played Burning Crusade back in the day, I think that's most of the people who played WoW now, have Classic I should say, probably played Burning Crusade in 2007. And back then, most of the pre-Outlands content, it did not have much relevance in terms of value in the auction house, or there really actually just wasn't even that many people, that many people out there in the world leveling, because pretty much everybody by the time I had joined was already level 70 and they were playing in the Outlands. So what that means for the content and the relevance of what I'm saying is that being able to wipe Hellfire Citadel, a level 59 through 61 dungeon, over and over again for the Nether Weave, the highest level of greens to disenchant, really everything. It opens up a huge possibility for farming a lot of the items that sell for a lot of gold, as well as cool content, because usually, especially with the end of single input software, most of the power pulling and stuff will happen at the lowest level, other than for the cool stuff that the mages can figure out. I'm also excited because in Burning Crusade, each of the 3 classes I play are all so good in their different roles. I mean, the best at AoE tanks by far will be Paladins, and Druids, I think, in my opinion, I remember them as the best healers, because they, especially in PvP, their ability to move and heal, shift forms to, remove those debuffs like slows, etc. It makes them the most versatile healer in the game, and the best healer in the game, because I believe they get their Life Bloom ability, as well as their tree form. And I never played a Druid, but from what I remember, I would be standing there as a Paladin spamming a Flash of Light, right? And all the Druids would be dancing around, casting heals. And so when it would come time for, to dodge a mechanic from Prince Malchazar at the end of Karazhan, I would be standing in place, and I can't heal the tank when I have to move. And I'm watching all the Druids just spamming everything with Innervate, etc. And they were just so good. And in PvP, I mean, same problem. You have to, hide around a corner pretty much, whereas the Druids, they can enter the battleground in stealth. They can switch forms into bear form, use bark skin, so much stuff that really starts to set them apart as, in my opinion, the best healers in the game. Also, probably the best news for the Horde and fun for us. You can't forget the fact that finally Horde can play their Blood Elf Paladins, and We can have our Draenei Shaman. I'd also love to try and get the full tier 6 armor set on Brock Shield, like I have on my retail character, retail paladin, who you've seen in one of the previous thumbnails where I discussed the Burning Crusade talent spec I would like to use. Tier 6, just like tier 2 for paladins, is, I think they're arguably the two most iconic sets that we have, with tier 2 being of course the most iconic. I mean, I'll say that if I had a goal for how I wanted my character to look, that full tier 2 with Sulfuros, Hand of Ragnaros is actually pretty much the best you can find. It just covers such a wide range of I don't know. So it's just one of the most beautiful armor sets in the game, I should say. Tier 6, of course, is just Radiant. I prefer Tier 2 because when you look at it, it's not as shiny as Tier 6. Tier 6 is very regal and very golden, whereas the Tier 2 reminds me a lot of that Paladin bread and butter, which is our Consecrate, and that holy fire that a Paladin has within them. I'll definitely be interested in rating Tier 6 because it actually provides gear rewards that I could use as a Paladin. That's one of the things I've been sort of bummed out about now in Classic, is that, Tier 2.5 exists, like the Avengers Breastplate and that entire set, but it's not really actually an upgrade for my style of pulling. It offers slightly better stats, but at the cost of spell power, and aesthetically, like I mentioned, for whatever it's worth, it's a lot of time and effort to get it, where I already feel I have the best set in the game for me, so that's why I never bother now to go into AQ. And similarly, I don't want to go to Naxxramas because Naxxramas will be really, really hard. It's a lot of time and preparation and effort, and there's not even a single tier item that I could get that would add any more value to me in this style of pulling, because all of the tier 3, just like the tier 1 for paladins, it's all plus healing gear. So I don't really feel like I would want to spend all that time just to get more gear that's just plus healing gear. And as you guys know, the entire bread and butter of how we've built Brock Shield is the damage and spell power in combination with Consecrate and Lifesteal in particular, in order to make sure that we sustain the pulls with this level of mobs hitting us. Some other small good news is that I've been fortunate to attend a GTKP BWL on Brock Shield last week, and I'm not GDKP, excuse me, just a regular BWL, an EPGP BWL. And unfortunately, I did not see Lochamir Ilromanthus, the Hand of Nefarian, is the inscription written on the bottom of the item box. With the 84 plus damage and healing, it is the single best weapon in the game for me. In this style. I'm still yet to be certain, because I don't have Iron Foe and I've never tested the Reckoning spec, if that actually provides me more lifesteal. I would be interested to see, as I did get a comment on one of my videos recently with a gentleman. I never played private server WoW, Classic WoW, so I wouldn't know what private server Classic is like. He mentioned that there's some tactic with using the Hakari Manslayer lifesteal weapon that provides better overall stats or something, and I'm not skeptical of it. I just know that The reason I still use Mage Blade is because the straight damage and spell power is, in my estimation, the cleanest and best way to go about this style of pulling. Because you might be able to replace one item of its spell power. Like for example, if I replace Mage Blade with Hakari Manslayer, forgive me if I have the wrong item, and I don't replace the enchant, I use spell power. Okay, I've lost 44 spell power. If I replace the enchant, I've lost 74 spell power. Now replace some other item, like tier 2 with something else. Now I've lost like 100 spell power. So you see how each of those decisions has to be very calculated, because now let's say instead of Mage Blade I have Lockamir. Now if I switch the weapons, I'm literally going from possibly 114 spell power to 0. And that's a huge difference in this Consecrate. So you see here, this Consecrate is hitting for 72 and 71 with the trinkets. That is a ton of damage, an absolute ton. That in combination with the lifesteal from the passive items I have, which rely on me getting hit. So that scales well with multiple mobs. Whereas Hakari Manslayer does not scale well with multiple mobs, because its lifesteal depends on me hitting someone else, which is not the bread and butter of how I like to play the game. So that's exactly why I do not believe that the life-stealing weapons are the best for this style of pulling, because every increase in spell power boosts my Consecrate, which boosts my lifesteal. It boosts my lifesteal, and that means it boosts all of the damage I deal to other mobs and the healing I receive from them hitting me, and scales with every mob. Whereas, like we mentioned before, all of the single target stats like strength, those only help me with one mob, attack, power, etc. So I don't want any stats like that, where instead I could be stacking damage, spell power. This leads to the question of, why am I so intent on Iron Foe? Well, the reason is because I had a good question from another gentleman in one of the comments where he said, why don't you try the Reckoning spec? And at that time I thought, well, I gave him the same explanation I just did about spell power and how my current talent spec of 21-21-9 is what I believe is best for me. Because in another comment recently, the gentleman said, why don't you go for Improved Retribution Aura? Improved Retribution Aura, I think, is one of the most overrated talents that a paladin can have. The reason is because the combination of Divine Favor plus your 100% regain on every crit for all your mana, what that means is every time I use a Divine Favor Holy Light, which as you see here is almost every single pull, it gives me a full health bar back. A full health bar. So what that means is I'm getting a free health bar each pull. Whereas if you look at Improved Ret Aura, I'm dealing out 10 more damage each time I get hit. So the trade-off for me is just not worth it because, and the deal breaker is this, they're twofold. One, I do heal myself every run, pretty much, right? So if I wasn't actually healing myself every run, there's an argument to be made. But secondly, in the Retribution tree, I've covered this in my talent video, there are no other useful talents to even get to Improved Retribution Aura. Because instead of Ret Aura, the talent that I really would choose would be Sanctity Aura. Sanctity Aura is a free 10% increase to all of my holy damage. So you can imagine, instead of doing 72 Consecrate, I'd be doing 79. Now that is the kind of increase in damage I'm talking about. Because you see here, these mobs bring me down. But what you also see are a lot of dodges and parries where they're not getting reflect damage. Because I'm so much of a higher level than them, so they're missing a lot too. Thus, that skill of being able to give myself a completely free heal, because remember, I'm getting my mana back using the Illumination talent. There's something like, I think it's like Divine Illumination or something. Basically that one where you get, once you put 5 points in it, every crit heal is all your mana back. So Divine Favor is a free crit, right? So that means a free complete health bar over and over each pull. And what that also means is, even if you don't go too deep in the Holy Tree, like the Holy the talent right before you get Holy Shock, if you choose to go that far, that gives you 5% crit back, you're still a very viable healer in raids. And so especially with the lower level raids that I do now to try and get Thunder Fury, like Molten Core, or BWL, where mostly it's alts running, they don't really need me to be complete Holy spec, so that means I don't have to respec, and thus I choose this talent spec. Returning back to the Ironfoe question of Reckoning, I tested with the original gentleman's comments about why not try Reckoning. Well, I used Seal of Light and Recount, and I tested exactly how much healing I got. And it turns out I got a lot more than I thought. So basically, I was receiving around 7,500 healing from all of the lifesteal effects that I get, which is a ton, as you can imagine. 7,500 is almost 2 full health bars for Brock Shield in just passive healing, which is why he's able to sustain the pulls like you see here. My health bar is just staying up while I have the entire courtyard on me. Now looking at the lifesteal, the Seal of Light, I was getting 2,500 health back from Seal of Light over the course of the pull. So as you can imagine, 2,500 versus 7,500 is actually pretty good. So that made me think that, what if I could get Ironfoe? How much would that change the math where perhaps it went from, because I'm losing some spell power, perhaps it would go to 7,000 versus 4,000. Now that's a trade-off I would like to see, right? Because I'm still getting an overall gain in the healing. I really wouldn't know till I got Ironfoe, because I don't want to test it with Flurry Axe, because I really won't know if it's doing a disservice to how good Ironfoe might be. And for all we know, maybe the proc rate is just too low in these pulls that's not worth it. But I truly do view Ironfoe as a pseudo-legendary weapon given its difficulty in farming. I mean, truly, it's not easy to do Emperor runs, and I mean, you can understand, I'm literally going to be try-boxing so hard to get that done if I'm fortunate to have Parmenion reach level 60. There are some other goals I think about too that just seem unachievable, but I would nevertheless be curious in trying, like completing Strath Undead runs. It's not like I want to go for Death Charger's Reigns or anything, but Strathome is absolutely no joke to try and 3-man. So I would be curious because I'm imagining those patching horrors bouncing me around while Daenerys is like frantically healing and poor Parmenion is just casting Blizzard because I can't try box that hard. I mean, that's the reason I'm so happy to choose a mage in this setup too, is because the only spell he has to cast is just Blizzard, and it's a channeled spell. So just like Consecrate, I imagine, you know, round up the mobs, bubble, heal myself, Consecrate, Holy Wrath, whatever. Daenerys comes in, tosses his first few hots, starts casting Healing Touch. Switch over to Parmenion, he just channels Blizzard. And every time I come back to him, he's just channeling Blizzard. And I can focus on finishing off the mobs with Brock Shield using Exorcism, or Daenerys using Moonfire, because I still need to use them primarily because that's my tank and healer. So having, you know, the best AoE DPS in the game at my side would be a huge advantage, and you gotta show some gnome love as well. I hope you've enjoyed the video so far. I found this very relaxing to make, and it's been nice. I feel like I've been verbalizing and visualizing my goals such that hopefully it will help me manifest them into reality. I've also appreciated just how many people I've been fortunate to have choose me to run them through dungeons. So many people on my server now have such a trust every time they come for these runs that like even one death is like shocking now because of the amount of preparation I put into these pulls. I mean, you can see here I have constant Goblin Sapper Charge, Major Healing Potion, Superior Healing Potion, Oil of Immolation, Elixir of Fortitude, Greater Armor, Elixir of Greater Armor, Greater Defense, Troll's Blood Elixir, and Limited Invulnerability Potion, such that, as you see here, I may use Lay on Hands as well, but the toolkit for Block Shield is just so fleshed out that it means a lot to me, because as you see, the names have been changing on the left-hand side. This is just run after run after run, and people have really started to trust that when they come for these runs, that they'll be compensated for the time and gold and kindness they show me in selecting the service in the first place. I have been wondering also what to do with my other I almost have 9 other level 35s on the same account as Daenerys. I have been wondering whether I should turn them into Mooncloth alts and Alk alts, but honestly I've been kind of reticent because that's just another thing to be micromanaging, and like real life is busy enough that it was like I don't need another list of I missed my Mooncloth or Alk today. It's like I don't really need that another burden in the game. Basically, what I have been thinking is I could at least level them all to level 45-ish in SM Cath, and so that's something that I was thinking would be fine, because if Burning Crusade came out, then maybe I can turn them into Mooncloth and Mooncloth and Tailoring alts then, for maybe I think Netherweave cooldown or something. Moonweave, I'm not sure. It's something like that. Getting confused. But Tailors and Alchemists have their own cooldowns as well in Burning Crusade, so I could at least get them to 45 so they can learn max professions then, and see what happens, because it wouldn't be too bad to have something then, because maybe by that point I might be leveling different combinations entirely. As the highlights went down here, I have to definitely give a big thank you to Valhalla for all the support they've shown me. In particular, I've definitely spent a lot of time running Zandan, actually the first member from Valhalla I had any relationship with. I first met him when I was first reached 60 with Brock Shield. He sold me the hand of Edward the Odd for a really good price, and ever since then I knew he was a good guy. So when I came back after these 3 months, it was really cool to see he's still doing well, and he does a lot in the game, so I'm definitely grateful to him for all the kindness he's shown me. And really the whole guild as well. They definitely give you a lot of opportunities, such that if you really want to gear up more, you can. And that's something that I'll definitely was doing a lot with Daenerys. I'm thinking that I would be 2-manning Emperor, but now that I'm committed to tri-boxing, it's not really as relevant that Daenerys buys like every cauterizing band and every wild growth spotters that drop, because, well, like, if I have a mage doing the damage, it's really not that big of a deal. As the the encounter is no longer a mana race, it should just be a win, basically. But still, can't count any chickens before they hatch, like they say, so respect. I definitely do also want to see how cool it will look when with using all 3 AoE abilities at once over the 3 characters. Especially I'll start to get a glimpse of that in Blackrock Depths when I level Parmenion in there, using Consecrate with Brock Shield. Toss a few heals on him with Daenerys, switch over to Hurricane, and then Blizzard them down. I'll definitely probably try things like have Parmenion, Frost Nova, and then Brock Shield can back up and not take hits. But I'm really not sure, because that's starting to stretch the limits of what I can envision from a keybind perspective. Because that involves Parmenion somehow being close enough to Frost Nova, blink, Blizzard, get all my heals in, get all my Consecrates in. It's actually just easier for each of the characters to play their 3 roles than it is for Parmenion to be the star in this role, because, I could just AoE them all with the mage instead if I wanted, right? So this is just the easiest approach, as each of them plays their part. So as the time on this video is almost done, definitely appreciated you if you watched along this whole way. It really means a lot to me, and I hope you enjoyed the more relaxing style of video. And I'll definitely be having more coming out, showing a lot of cool things. Hopefully edit together some nice stuff for not just you, but also when we all look back for memory's sake at everything we've all done. So with that, I want to say thank you for watching. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, as it greatly helps the channel. Light be with you all. Take care, and thanks again.